So you want to get one of those slick Ableton hardware devices, but which one is the best value and the best fit for your workflow and needs? And even though Move and Push 3 aren't directly comparable, I've seen people wonder which one they should get. Is it worth splurging for the standalone version of Push 3, or would the much cheaper Move be sufficient? And what about the controller version of Push 3? Or what about the still fully supported Push 2 that can be bought for much less? I'll share my 2 cents on the topic as someone who's had every Ableton device since the original Push 1, and everyone's requirements and perspective are different, so if you also share your experience in the comments, that would surely help people looking for advice. So let's start with Ableton Move, and honestly, I think it's turning into a bit of a hit for Ableton. It's just super easy to recommend to everyone who wants to add a bit of a hands-on approach to their music making, and honestly, if you're not sure you will take advantage of its bigger brothers, I'd say just go for it. It takes up way less space and fits into any setup, which makes it far more likely to actually use it. And you can take it outside of the studio, travel with it, and it provides a lot of value as an all-in-one device. It's a standalone Groovebox sampler, synth, audio interface, and an integrated Ableton Live controller. Since I've recently published a full review of Move, I will link it down in the video description. You can go watch it for more details, but do so after finishing this video, because we have a lot more to discuss here. And I also have a video breaking down its capabilities as a controller, but I want to address the controller part here in comparison to a full-blown Push. Now, in my experience, and I've seen this sentiment shared by other people online as well, while Push is an incredible controller when working with your computer with mouse, keyboard, trackpad, or whatever, a lot of operations are actually slower to do on Push, regardless of which version you have. I mean, stuff like browsing and loading samples and devices, editing devices or clips, or like setting up routing, like sidechaining inputs, outputs, adjusting levels, other parameters, all that kind of stuff. At some point you may be like, wait, hold on, why am I slowing down my workflow when I can just click around with the mouse and be much faster? So you have this amazing but really big controller taking up space on your desk, and you have to really consider if you will be using it to its full potential. A large part of its surface is taken up by the pads, and don't get me wrong, the ability to chop samples into 64 slices and have access to all of them at the same time is really cool, and an 8x8 grid for the session view is perfect. But are you gonna use the note modes to play keys like chords, melodies, bass lines? And maybe you will. I'm not saying nobody does that. Plenty of people do. I just think you should carefully consider these factors. I just use the pads for playing drums and chopped samples, and I can't say I really need 64 of them, as I play everything else with a keyboard. And maybe the note layout of Push speaks more to guitar players. But for me, I don't use it that often. Except maybe for the new expressive chords device, but I do play my own chords with the keyboard way more often. And while recording my musical ideas, I really hate switching to the mouse and keyboard to stop and start recording, to delete bad takes, to use capture, to navigate between tracks and stuff. This really breaks the physical flow of recording my parts with keys and pads. And guess what? You can do these with Move in controller mode just fine. So for me, I even prefer Move as a controller to Push, because yes, it does much less, but it takes about 3 times less space and does everything I need. And bear in mind that I'm a fan of the session view and I always start there. But if you are an arrangement view kind of guy, you don't really have much control over it. And a lot of people who start with arrangement view and don't use the session view to start their ideas, a lot of them just end up selling their push as it's just taking up space. So, to summarize, if you don't need the extensive control of push, and many people don't need it, just get Move. Okay, but let's say you already have an Ableton Move, or even after these considerations, you're like, nah man, push is the right one for me. I don't work like you. I want to get a push. Stop trying to convince me otherwise. Okay, I hear you. But then, Push 3 is really expensive, even the controller version. And Push 2 does most of the things Push 3 does as a controller for life. It's a bit more compact, and it's overall still an amazing controller, and you can buy it for much cheaper. Ableton still have the refurbished Push 2 on their Reverb store, and it costs $350, and that's a pretty sweet deal if you ask me. And if you want to watch a full review of Push 2, I have one that I published in 2022. I will drop it in the video description down below. It's also worth noting that it still receives updates and is fully supported in the latest versions of life. I mean, hell, even Push 1 is still supported. So I don't expect them to drop support for Push 2 anytime soon. So I think it's still a very good purchase, unless you need MPE. Push 2's pads are really good, but they don't have the MPE functionality of Push 3. And if you're like, wait, what's MPE? I'd say you're exactly the kind of person that should get a Push 2 and not a 3. But Push 3 also adds some things that improve browsing and editing, but these are mostly useful for the standalone version because, as we already established, doing these things is faster with the mouse and the keyboard when you are at your computer anyway. And Push 3 also features a built-in audio interface, but you may already have one. So these additions aside, there aren't really that many improvements on the Push 3 compared to Push 2. Now, if you want to turn your screen off and use your tethered push like a standalone and not interact with the computer at all, then yes. Then maybe get Push 3, it will be better for this purpose, as the layout and features are made with standalone use in mind. Although you can do that to a large extent with Push 2 as well, but you may be reaching for the mouse to do some things. And you can also upgrade the controller version of Push 3 to make it standalone, and the final price with the upgrade will be the same as buying the standalone version right away. Finally, what about Push 3 standalone? In one of my Push 3 videos back in 2023, I said that I preferred to use it as a controller. But we didn't have the much more compact Move back then, and like I already mentioned, I now prefer Move as a controller as it takes less space and does everything I need. So I still maintain that it's the best one to get for most people. And the majority of people who've shared their opinions online advise you to get the controller version of Push 3, and there is a lot of merit to this opinion, as the workflow when working solely from Push takes a bit of practice to get used to, and it's never gonna be as quick as something like Machine, for example, which is designed from the ground up with the purpose of working with a hands-on groovebox type of workflow, while with Push 3, Ableton had to put their existing, very feature-rich desktop DAW inside the controller. And it kind of shows. However, having all that power can also be quite nice once you get used to the workflow. And with us spending so much time in front of screens, going for a totally computerless experience can be very cool and inspiring, especially if you need something more powerful than Move, which is quick and fun, but way more limited in capabilities. And with Move, Ableton have had to make some compromises to achieve the size and price that they didn't have to make with Push 3. So since I got my Push 3 standalone, I'm actually enjoying it a lot, even if it's not perfect, and it definitely takes some time and effort to get used to. So if you have some experience with hardware groove boxes or generally feel determined to take the time to learn and get used to using the standalone Push, I'd say it's worth getting it if you can afford the steep price and don't need the portability of Move, as Push 3 is quite big and heavy. In fact, considering that Move is sufficient for me as a controller, my hot take is that the controller version of Push is the one that doesn't make sense for me, as I wouldn't be using it to its full potential in front of the computer. Anyway, and I say it's a hot take because I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with me, but that's how I see it. The way I use these devices currently is Move in front of my main computer setup as a controller, and I also occasionally travel with it or play around with it on the couch, and Push 3 standalone on my secondary setup where I don't use a computer. So a Push controller doesn't really have any utility for me, and if I was to get only one device, that would be Move. Now, let's be clear, for many it can be a bit of an indulgence or a luxury to spend so much cash to have life inside your controller and not use a computer. Push 3 standalone is definitely not for everyone, so you should consider it very carefully. And please don't fall into the trap of thinking that the standalone will finally motivate you to work more on music or make your music better. That's just delusional. But if you want some break from the computer to make your music making more enjoyable, then it might be a good purchase for you. And considering how long the gap was between Push 2 and Push 3, and the fact that Ableton have made it upgradable, I have the feeling that we are at least 5, but probably even more years away from a potential Push 4. And I have a lot more to say about Push 3, but I will leave that for a dedicated review video, so stay tuned and subscribe if you don't want to miss it. A great way to support the channel would be to get one of my Ableton Live packs, and the best value would be the complete Heat bundle, which includes all packs that I've released so far. And if you decide to buy a Push or a Move, you can use my affiliate links to Thomann, and all these are linked in the video description down below. And in the meantime, share your experience down in the comments, like the video if you enjoyed it, and go watch another one that's up here